it's been 250 years since the United States of America gained its independence. For one, I can't imagine how life would have been like in the 1700s, you know. That's for one. But I don't want to talk about the history, the specifics of how the US gained its independence, um, and what all that, you know, meant as far as like a timeline between now and today, you know, from a year to year perspective, a decade to decade perspective, or even a century to century perspective, excuse me. But I do want to discuss in brief, guys, um, how how the history does affect each and every one of us, right? What the United States of America actually represented and what they still represent today. I believe they're doing their best at upholding their constitution and upholding the nationalism that the US promotes. And it's, it's general. It's not like it's like, man, I'm not saying this place is like, wow, like I see myself, really gaining pride, nationalism, comfortability in this place, because it doesn't represent me. That's kind of my point. Like the history has been built off of sweat and tears, sure, but also blood. Blood was number one, and blood by whom? We all know this information, but I want to be like, I want to discuss, like, man, I I say we all know this information, but we probably don't. I think maybe we're in denial. But there's been a lot of things. There's been a lot of things, guys. We can we can just scratch everything that happened before 2025. Like, honestly, I want to get that granular. We can scratch everything that happened before 2025, but within the last year to year and a half, the writing has been on the wall. It has. I'm not saying that country is gonna crumble in and of itself, but what I am addressing here is that there are other world powers coming to be. From an internal perspective, right? Internal legislation, government, military, technology, health and medicine, right? Internally with other places. And then externally with people like me, amongst almost 10 million other people from America, not understanding or not really feeling like they can fit in to a culture, a country, a nation, a government, a society that America has stood on for 250 years. It's happening. It doesn't matter that America has been a world power. People specifically, people individually are feeling hurt, are feeling threatened, targeted, especially people of color, especially people who are on the lower end of economic divide and opportunity. So it doesn't matter how long America has been standing or their influence on the world. There are other places and powers that be that has been threatening America and now will threaten America. You know, this is hence is why, we pour into trillions of dollars, if not billions a year, into into military and defensive war. You know. It's about being number one. It's about being number one. It's about upholding propaganda and influence. America has never, ever been about upholding the prevalence and promoting peace among its people within its borders. It was built off of war. It was built off of theft. And it continues and maintains such due to that means. So we can't be surprised in 2026, going into 2027, going into 2030. We can't be surprised why things are moving the way it's moving for us individually, for us as a demographic, for us as a people as a whole, right? We can't be surprised, Obviously, July 4th is a big holiday. It's a huge holiday, for what it represents. And for what it can do for people. People can, they can take off of work. People can have cookouts. They can meet up with family they haven't seen for months, if not years. They can buy expensive things or buy gifts, fireworks, the light shows. There's events, right? We become very prideful, I guess, empathetic. I don't know the right term for that. Excited around that holiday, And I know, look, I always believe in actions over wording, over words, right? I don't subscribe. I try not to subscribe to cliche sayings, but I do always think about stuff like this. Like, why? Why is it? Why is it? Let's just say generally as a nation, right? Why do we uphold July 4th? Outside of the physical things I talk about, and that could just stay right there. It could just because of the 5 or 6 things I listed. We could feel free for one day, excited for one day, especially in a place that is allowing us to feel free for one day, right? We can eat, be merry, dance, we don't have to worry about work for a day or two, right? Stuff like that, be around our kids, But if you take a step back, there has been an economic decline nationally. Because maybe people don't have jobs to go back to after July 4th, right? Like we can get into that negative, And then I want to just take a closer scope at who's the real beneficiaries of this holiday, It can't be my people, right? My people, in a sense of, people who look like me, right? It shouldn't be, But it is. Because again, it's off of that surface level thinking of feeling united for a day, right? Because it's a holiday. But July 4th actually represents bloodshed. It represents the opposing side of unity. It represents the start and maintenance, of what our people went through, what our ancestors went through, right? It's deep. It's deep. So, and again, you guys know that history. We all know that it's in plain sight. It's all over the internet. It's all over books. We know about it. We know that in school, history is skewed. We get all this stuff. This is not new. Nothing's new under the sun. But my whole premise on talking about this is, do we care about that information, or do we care about the trajectory and where our country is going, our origin country, our birth country, where we have passports, birth certificates, SSN tied to those borders? Do we care about where it's going? And then do we care about, in second, and in tandem to that, do we care about our trajectory individually, as a single person, as a family, as a couple? Do we care about our trajectory in the States? Do we truly care in all matters? Finances, health, wellness, economic safety and security. Like, do we care about that stuff? This is to be more like, I guess, thought-provoking. I don't know. That's why I feel like I'm all over the place. It's always hard. I'm always trying to like process what I'm saying, because I know exactly what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to put it into words for you guys to understand. Although the states have been the states, in summary, and it will keep being the states, people will keep coming to the states because it's opportunistic, right? There's resources, there's blah, there's blah, there's blah, right? That's how we've been told. That's the influence. That's the geographical international influence the states has. Its marketing, team is phenomenal, So that will keep happening. But individualistically, if I can use that term, is it working for you? Is it working for you being a minority? You guys know what I'm saying? So, anyway, guys, whatever. If this is your first time seeing Black, hit a sub, leave a like. I've heard empires usually start fading away. Their power starts to degrade, or, blah, 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 right? Whatever term you want to use, where they become threatened or weakened, right? I hear that empires in the past, history, because history tends to repeat itself, right? Empires, countries, countries is the more nuanced term for empires, last for 250 years, and now we're at 250 years with the United States of America. So anyway, think on that. If you guys have more information on it, leave it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know if you agree, disagree, as always. Or don't say shit. It's whatever. It's your life. It's my life. We gotta still make the best decisions we can, day to day, no matter where we live, honestly.